Hello everyone. I would like to thank the members of the TOC ICO board, Jennifer, Christiana, for inviting me to open the 2023 Critical Chain Conference. It is an honor. This is a special opportunity for me to share some of my experience being around my father, Dr. Eli Goldratt, as he was developing the theory of constraints. My personal journey that started when I was a kid and continues basically to the present. When stranded at home during COVID, I've decided to write his introductory book to project management for him. The book that he intended to write, but didn't make it. TOC is a rather large body of knowledge. A reporter once asked my father if he could describe TOC in 5 sentences. My father replied he didn't need 5 sentences. One word will suffice: focus. That was the one concept that always guided him. Focus on what matters, he said. Don't bother going after chupchiks. Chupchiks are those little things at the tip of teapots. Well, you can tell someone you should focus and even insist it's important. What good will it do? To help people focus, he needed to develop processes, mechanisms, and the first one was in production. While visiting factories and studying production floors, he first started to talk about bottlenecks, then constraints, and then the 5 focusing steps. I was in elementary school when he published The Goal. The Goal was published in 1984, and it has been a major success. Read by thousands of managers and students and implemented in many production floors around the world. The Goal is translated to more than 30 languages and has sold over 10 million copies. At home, I got used to hearing these fantastic stories about inventory cuts and lead time reductions and increasing throughputs. And the numbers I heard weren't 5% improvements. They were 50% improvements, and often much more than that. Needless to say, these were all real implementations. I was the one who saw them as father's stories. And these success stories just kept coming. At the beginning of the 90s, different companies started to approach the Goldratt Institute. A large Norwegian company who wanted help building oil rigs in the Northern Sea, a famous American food company who was terribly late building a new factory in Eastern Europe. Father also talked about another company that was converting old passenger airplanes into cargo ones. That one was in Israel, Bedek. I met with the engineer who was in charge there years later, and he said Eli was talking in production terms, asked questions as if it was a production floor. It made people very uncomfortable there. They kept explaining to him that in Bedek, things are different. It's a project environment. Father was intrigued. He had a new challenge. Back then, the name of the game in project management was critical path. Father soon figured that to get better results, people should focus on the critical chain. To differentiate it from the current practice, he called the new TOC solution CCPM, Critical Chain Project Management. He was also looking for a mechanism to better handle the uncertainty that is inherent in projects. He started to develop the use of buffers. After a few years and more than a few successful implementations, he thought he figured it out. He has a solution for project management. Time to write the next book. The name of the book should obviously be Critical Chain. But what should be in it? At that time, I was in college and already part of Father's inner circle, assisting him in his writing. Father wished to demonstrate in the book how ideas develop while thinking in the Socratic method. The development is not linear. People have an insight here and then an insight there, and gradually the understanding evolves. He wanted to write the book this way so people will not only learn how to better manage projects, but also get a sense of how to develop their own ideas. I thought this was a matter for a separate book. I was concerned that it will confuse the readers. I suggested the book should be written in a linear manner that explained things in a systematic, clear way. Father said he wants to try it his way, and if it doesn't work, in the next book, he'll consider going my way. Father also wanted to convey the importance of value in the book. Every individual, every system, no matter what they aim to achieve, should strive to bring value to the people they serve. He truly believed in it and followed this principle his entire life. He decided to show it in the book by using the academia as his example. He didn't think the academia provided enough thinking skills and management tools to students. He wanted to highlight the need to re-examine curriculums and teaching methods so that university courses bring more value to students. I was concerned that such criticism might hinder his objective to make the book welcome in the academia, like the goal. I suggested he rethink it. He said he wanted to write the book his way, and if it doesn't work, in the next book, he'll consider going my way. The plot and the content were carefully planned to cover his insights, and he got going. It takes time to write, especially when he was constantly flying around the world, overseeing so many implementations. The more he wrote, the less happy he was with the book. He kept saying the book was about a single project when it should be about multi-projects. I wasn't sure what he meant, but I suggested that he take some time, figure it out, and then go back to writing. And it wasn't just me. Everyone around him suggested basically the same thing. He saw no need for it. He believed there was enough value in what he developed so far. He decided to continue writing the book. CCPM implementations started to accumulate. Some were very successful, but others were struggling. It appeared that their buffers were consumed too early, and people had a hard time keeping the projects on track. Father genuinely believed that he had the solution, and it was a matter of deciphering the details. But towards the end of the book, he surprised me by adding a piece that wasn't part of the original plan. He wrote about the need to reduce multitasking. He said the book was good enough for now, and one day, when the right time will come, he'll rewrite it or write a new one. Critical Chain was published in 1997, and everyone started talking about buffer management. Some insisted one buffer is enough. Others declared that there is a need for at least 6 different types of buffers. And everyone were busy coming up with ideas how to calculate the right size for the buffers and where to place them. All the focus was on the mechanics of project management. Father made a real effort to be involved in as many implementations as possible, exploring the mechanics. But from what I could tell, more and more, he focused on multitasking. What's the issue with multitasking? Why is it so paramount to the progress of projects? Let me show you. What if we were to have a little competition? Suppose that I ask you to send me a text message in which you complete 3 projects. Each has 12 tasks. In the first one, type the letters of the word multitasking. In the second one, type the numbers 1 through 12. And in the third project, type these 3 symbols 4 times. I ask you to complete each project before you start the next one. No multitasking here. Once you finish all 3 projects, text them in one text message to me. Work as fast as you can, but make sure your quality is high. No errors here. How long do you think it takes to complete these 3 projects without multitasking? I tried it with a few dozens of people in a high-tech company just a few weeks ago. The fastest people completed the project in close to 20 seconds. And oh, by the way, there was a significant correlation with age. It took the slowest people closer to 2 minutes. Now I asked them to complete the same 3 projects, but this time to multitask. Type 1 letter from the first project, then 1 number from the second project, and then 1 symbol from the third project. And continue to multitask like that until they complete the same 3 lines, same projects, and send them in one text to me. How long does it take to complete these 3 projects with multitasking? The young people who crushed it in 22 seconds before now needed 54 seconds. More than twice the time for performing precisely the same projects. 3 minutes was not the time it took the slow people to finish. It's when I stopped the competition because people started saying they had enough. Multitasking is exhausting. They didn't finish, they just got the point. Try it yourself. When multitasking, the same projects take a lot longer. Multitasking is an inherent obstacle that causes projects to take much longer than they should take. Oh, by the way, what do you think was the effect of multitasking on the quality of these text messages? Needless to say more. I'd like to share with you a video from a series that was filmed in 1999, a couple of years after Critical Chain was published. The series is called The Satellite Program, and it was a summary of the body of knowledge of the theory of constraints back then. It's an old series that I still have on VHS cassettes, hence the quality. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you the whole series, just an excerpt of 2 minutes in which Father talks about multitasking.
This is called bad multitasking. How many times have you seen it? Jumping from one project to the other. Hello? In some environments, it's so bad that when you're talking with the top skills, with the top people, they say, do you know what? I'm going home to work. I cannot work here. All the time they're coming and tearing me apart. I'm going home to work. What a statement. It's unbelievable how many times we see it. What we don't realize is that this bad multitasking dwarfs everything that we talked before. This bad multitasking is the biggest killer of time that exists. Let me show you what I mean. Suppose that I'm a resource that have to work on 3 different projects. This is the work that I have to do for one project. This is the work that I have to do in the second project. This is the work that I have to do in the third project. If I will work without all your pressures, I will finish the first project after that time and release it. Second project I will release after that time and release it. This is the third project I will release after the third time. But can I work under that? No, because you are raising hell, the project managers. Okay? And I have to be politically okay if I want to survive. So what do? Exactly what we said before. I'll give it to you until the pressure will be too much, then I'll move to you, and then until the pressure will be too much, I will move to the third person, and so on. Look what is happening. I'm working in such a way. But when I finish 1/3 of the task, can the person after me use it and start to work? No. What is then happening? If I will switch back and forth and look, these switches are much, much less than what we see in reality. Suppose that each one of them is a month's work. Okay? This means that I'm switching every 2 weeks or something like that, or a week and a half. You know that in reality, many times I'm switching every 3 days. Am I right? Yeah. Look what's happening. When will the first project will be released to further work? Not here, but here. Where's the second project? Here. The third project will release at the same time, which means what happened? I've killed all of you, but about the same level, so I'm okay. Nobody wins!
Multitasking is the biggest killer of time in projects. This is why, after talking about it for a while, Father got used to calling it bad multitasking. We need to complete projects on time. The buffers are supposed to give us safety only in case some unexpected delays happen. But if we are multitasking between too many projects, the buffers will be consumed for sure. Not by unexpected delays, but by the bad multitasking. There is no point in monitoring buffers if we don't focus on less projects at a time. We have to limit the number of projects we work on in parallel. There is no way around it, unless, of course, we don't mind being late. How many projects should we work on at the same time? Most operations have a pretty good idea how many projects they can effectively deliver in parallel. And for others, we do have processes to determine that. But in general, we are talking about a U-curve. If we work on too few projects, it's not effective. Often we need to stop because we are waiting for others to complete their part, or we need to take our minds off the project for a little while and think about something else. You know what I mean. We also don't want to work on too many projects at a time because, as we just proved, it will only take us much longer to complete them. There is no need for a magic number here, an optimal number of projects. Anywhere at the bottom of this U-curve is basically fine. I want to mention something else here that is highly important. There is another element to bad multitasking that we have to pay attention to, and that is multitasking between tasks. Let me show you what I mean in this short video. It's about an old woman who thinks there is something wrong with her, so she goes to the doctor.
I went to the doctor yesterday. He told me I have age-activated attention deficit disorder. This is how it manifests itself. I need to wash my car. As I start towards the garage, I notice that there are some letters on the kitchen table. I separate the post into bills and junk mail. I go to put the junk mail in the bin and notice that it's full, but then I think that I may as well pay the bills first. I take my checkbook from my bag and see that there is only one check left, so I go to my desk in my study where I find a bottle of Coke, which I had been drinking. I am about to look for a checkbook when I notice that the Coke is warm, so I decide to put it in the fridge. As I enter the kitchen, I notice the flowers on the worktop need water. I put the Coke down and notice my glasses, which I've been looking for all the morning. I decide that I'd better take them back to my desk, but first I must water the flowers. I spot the TV remote on the table. I know we'll be looking for it tonight, so I decide to take it back to the living room. But first I must water the flowers. I splash some water on them, but some spills on the floor, so I put the remote down to wipe up the spill. Then I continue down the hall, trying to remember what I was planning to do. Now it's the end of the day. The car isn't washed, the bills aren't paid, there's a warm bottle of Coke on the worktop. The flowers aren't watered, there's only one check in my checkbook. I can't find the remote or my glasses, and I don't know what I did with the car keys. I tried to work out why nothing got done today, and I'm baffled because I've been busy, and now I'm really tired.
You start a task, you finish it. Period. There is no U-curve here. We have to avoid bad multitasking on the task level because it is killing us. It kills our time, our energy, and our motivation. Today's culture promotes constant interruptions and praises multitasking, and we are paying a heavy price for it. As my father mentioned in the video we saw earlier, people say they need to go home to be able to concentrate and get their job done. And guess what? They go home and continue to multitask there. It's an issue. If we want to finish projects faster, we need to change our personal habits as well as the organizational culture to promote no interruption times and resist bad multitasking. In the next 10 years, Father was involved in many CCPM implementations. Monitoring the consumption of buffers provided clarity that no one had before. He learned more and more about what was consuming buffers, the inherent obstacles that cause delays in projects. In 2008, he filmed his most comprehensive analysis of CCPM, the strategic and tactic analysis of project management. Handling the two major causes for delays, multitasking and lack of full kit, took the entire first part of the analysis. It was evident that if we don't deal with the inherent obstacles that cause delays, projects will continue to finish late regardless of the buffers. These insights were eye-opening. People asked him if now was the time to rewrite Critical Chain. He replied that he was busy writing another book, which he was. He was writing his life philosophy book, The Choice, with me. The Choice was based on a series of conversations between Father and I. In one of the early conversations, I made the comment that I thought he was a brave person. I think it takes a lot of guts to do what he has done. Daring to challenge assumptions that everyone believed in. Daring to come up with solutions that, although were common sense, they weren't common at all. Father explained to me that he saw it as the humble-arrogant duality. He said that every person who wishes to invent new things should adopt this duality. That explanation actually found itself into chapter 1 of The Choice. He said, on the one hand, one has to be humble, to assume that one doesn't know. Actually, to avoid feeling disappointed, one has to expect that things will most probably not work the first time. On the other hand, one must be arrogant, have the confidence that one is capable of figuring out how to make things work. At first, I didn't buy it. How can someone avoid being disappointed? If we put a lot of time and effort into something and it doesn't work, naturally we'll be disappointed. I would say that if it's a serious matter, would even be crushed. Father answered by explaining the scientist approach. He was a physicist, a scientist. He believed in the ongoing process of developing theories through making hypotheses and testing them empirically, both in science as well as in management. He said, when a prototype, a new initiative doesn't work, we face two alternatives. One is to bitch about reality, and the other is to harvest the gift it just gave us, the knowledge of what has to be corrected. I saw it happening in my own eyes when The Choice was published. You see, when we were writing The Choice, I was concerned that the book was way too condensed. Packing too many ideas into each chapter, readers may miss a lot of the wisdom in it. I thought the book should be written like an Ayn Rand book, a novel with 1,000 pages. He didn't care for it. He said, it's my name on the cover and I want to write it my way. But if you happen to be right, you have my permission to write my book your way. After the book was published, he invited quite a few people who read it to his house and asked them what they understood from the different chapters. He did it to verify he was right, but unfortunately, it turned out that I was. The Choice is his life philosophy book. In his eyes, it was the most important book he ever wrote. And he just found out that many people didn't get a lot of what he said in it. If I was him, I would be heavily disappointed. But he wasn't. He simply reminded me that I have his permission to write, and for the time being, he asked me to write a summary of each chapter, highlighting the important messages. These summaries were called Efrat's Notes. They were added in a revised edition of the book, and Father added my name as the co-author. In 2008, Father also released one of his most important articles, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. That article was originally published in Diamond Weekly, the Japanese equivalent of the Harvard Business Review, to mark the 25th anniversary of the goal. His key sentence, improving flow is the primary objective of every operation. When Father started to talk in terms of flow, all the final pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. Seeing multi-project environments as a flow of projects that goes through the operation makes all the sense in the world. To improve our ability to manage projects, we should identify the obstacles that clog the flow and utilize prudent processes to remove these obstacles. Father said that the time to rewrite Critical Chain was getting close. I have a feeling that I know what he was waiting for. The thing is, in the early days, he thought that the focus of his solution to project management was buffers. Buffers were to be used to monitor the progress of projects as well as shorten the lead times. It turned out that buffers are essential. but they are only part of the picture and not the main part. The focus should be on managing the flow. To prove it, he needed to verify that managing the flow was sufficient to shorten lead times. So he no longer needed to recommend people cut the buffer times in half. If you're not sure what I mean, it's not really important. What is important was that he was close, very close. He only wanted to see a few more successful implementations, and that was around the corner. But he didn't make it. He passed away in 2011. The expert in Goldratt Consulting and their affiliates reached that point about a year later. The years went by and the new developments in flow management were known only to a handful of people. If I needed proof for it, I got it from an MBA thesis that was recently approved. It was conducted by the same engineer who met my father in Bedek in the early 90s. After a long successful career, he retired and treated himself to an MBA. His literature review covered all the academic work that mentioned CCPM from the time Critical Chain was published until the present. What he found was that practices that provide the mechanics of project management, such as buffer allocation and sizing, scheduling, and task duration settings, account for 77% of the discussion. And very low attention was paid to the flow enhancement aspects of CCPM. It seemed like people, both in the academia and in organizations, were aware of the early concepts of CCPM and were not aware of the amazing development of managing flow. In this thesis, he then conducted in-depth interview with 15 of the world's leading experts in CCPM, asking them what were the chances to deliver projects successfully if the organization focuses only on the mechanics of buffers, etc. The answer was unanimous. All the experts said is that without managing the flow, chances of success were slim. 10 years after my father passed away, per his instructions, I am managing his copyrights, books, and publications around the world. I am very familiar with his style, and also I have his permission to write. Stranded at home during COVID, I ran out of excuses. It was time to sit down and write the book. The Introduction to Project Management the TOC Way, the book that my father intended to write but didn't make it. With a lot of help from a few of the leading experts in the field and my father's publisher, North River Press, the book was published in January of 2023. I hope my father would be proud. You be the judge.